So perhaps just as we're starting here, where we finished off last time was a really sort of workshop 2 was much about practical things. How can we implement things into our croquet mental skills, habits? One of the big things we spoke about was pre-shot routine. So I think I'd left you guys with the task of being able to try to practice and develop your own routine. And it's been about 2 weeks, so I'd love it if anyone's willing to kind of raise their hand and just maybe give us a little bit of an update and share what their experience has been as they've tried to develop that and perhaps even use that in their training. Michael, yes, I see you there. Jump on in.
Yeah, so I think the idea of the pre-routine is, well, for me, is to fill my head with objects of what to achieve and stop little thoughts coming in on the side. So first thing I do, I talk to myself about focusing and then visualizing where I want the ball to go. And then I do my physical process of lining up the shot, hitting the shot.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's exactly what the routine is there to use. Croquet is filled with downtime. There is distance between one shot and the next. And we're looking to utilize that to the fullest of our advantage. So like Michael was saying just then, the ability to kind of shift focus away from things that aren't helping us and shift focus towards things that can help us with the shot that we've got right now. So I really love that. Was there anyone else that was keen to share some of their insights? Derek, I see you, yeah.
It's just so you know, Darren, Bob is the nickname, but I guess the big one for me was just trying to slow the whole process, pre-shot and shot routine down a little bit. And part of that is trusting myself, because I've been trying to work on a routine where I keep my head down at the end, particularly because under pressure, I tend to want to have a look to see whether I've succeeded or not, and that guarantees failure. I've been doing a couple of things with that, but really it's around trusting myself and slowing it down.
I love that, Bob. Thanks so much for sharing. Yes, I think it's a wonderful sort of thing to be able to use that routine to just compose ourselves. Like I think the tendency for a lot of people is perhaps to rush. So well done tailoring it to make sure that it caters to your particular needs there. So thanks. Alistair, I see your hand up. Jump on in.
Yeah, so I think all the other things are things that I do, but one of the other things that I'm very aware of is looking at the position of the balls on the court, where they are, going through the sequence of the balls, which one's next, who's first, who's second, what they might do, where the next hoop is, where the offside line are, just to get the overall geometry of what's going on, so I can then make my decision about the shot and then go into those things that Michael and Bob have been talking about in terms of that preparation. So always, although there's all this spare time, I'm always using it to think about, what about this? Where's this going to go? How's this going to work out? Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I love that, Alistair. Just sort of zooming the perspective out, because I guess something that can happen with hyperfocus, hence perhaps the term tunnel vision, is that our kind of sight and even, our sort of mental focus kind of gets tunneled in on a specific detail, and that can be really helpful for something. But actually what you're telling me is actually in your routine, it's helpful to zoom out and just take everything in. Let's not miss information. We can use that to inform the decision-making process. So absolutely love that. Denise, I see your hand up there. Jump on in.
He's muted.
Yes, Denise, you have to unmute your microphone. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Sorry, I was very pleased with my little thing that I prepared, and I thought it was right what I needed, and I was happy with it. So the change that I made was I just photoed it, put it on my phone, and before I've played, I've actually gone through it and just in between games, flicked it off my phone and just had a look, so that it just reminded me to refocus, before each event.
Fantastic.
And that's what I've done differently.
Thanks for sharing that. And I hope everyone can kind of see here as people have sort of shared what they've done in their own process. Everyone's sort of got their own unique approach to it. And that's very much how it looks. We are all unique individuals. Our games are different. Our minds are different. And we all need our own cues and prompts to help us get the best out of ourselves. So I absolutely love to sort of hear the diversity in the way that people have used this to get more out of themselves. So really well done. And thank you, everyone, for sharing. That was really excellent to hear how people have applied this in their croquet. Let's continue on. So today I wanted to sort of talk a little bit more specifically around some psychological flexibility skills. Some of these skills tend to be a little bit confusing. So I introed psychological flexibility in the first workshop, and the themes of it run through all of the strategies and the things we've spoken about till now. So again, psychological flexibility is the ability to be open to different experiences that we have, different thoughts and feelings. They're not good, they're not bad, they can just exist. It is the ability to attend to the present moment, and it is the ability to direct our life in the and have behaviors that take us towards the things that matter. We spoke a little bit about values, why croquet is important, what we're trying to accomplish. These are the things that are important to us. So it's this combination of presence, openness to our experience, move our lives and move our game in the direction that is what is important to us. And psychological flexibility is such a beautiful skill because it helps us embrace hard things that happen. Croquet is hard. Croquet is uncertain. Challenges happen throughout the game. And as we've all discussed and experienced, there's a bunch of different thoughts and emotions that come with it. The more that we try to fight and resist them, the less focus we have for our game, and the more time we're spending in our own head. So psychological flexibility helps embrace, diffuse, and refocus on the things that matter. So I wanted to go through a couple of the skills that I think can be really valuable. This is one of the exercises we were going to do the first time around, but ran out of time. So I'd like to give it a crack now, because I think now's the right time to do this. We've gone through a couple of the workshops now. We've talked about a lot of different croquet situations. We've talked about some of the fundamental skills. This matrix is an exercise that kind of combines all those things together. So I think now's an appropriate time to revisit it. So we're going to do breakout groups again, and I've labeled the breakout groups for each quadrant. So let me just walk through each of these quickly and explain the diagram and the exercise to you. We have two axes. The axes going from left to right, away and towards. What that means is towards the person I want to be and away from the person I want to be. Towards the player I want to be or away from the player I want to be. Okay. And then the up and down axes we have as behavior and then internal mental experiences. So you can think of these as you go further up towards behavior. These are external things that people can see us do, their actions, their behaviors. As we go further down, we're saying that, okay, it's less observable. This is now more about internal, what is happening within me. So we're talking about thoughts and emotions predominantly. Okay, so I'll run that through again. Left axis away and towards, going to the left further away from the person I want to be, further right towards the person I want to be, up and down, what is observable, what are my behaviors, what are my actions, further down, more internal, less observable, what's happening within me. And so what that does is it leaves us with quadrants that combine those two elements together. So we're going to start with the bottom right. The bottom right is a combination of towards the person I want to be, but it's an internal experience. And so what that is, it's the values, it's the purpose, it's the who I want to be, it's the competitor I'm trying to be, it's the person I'm trying to show in these challenging situations. Okay, so the group that will have values, your job is to write down these values and these definitions, these phrases that describe the competitor we're trying to be in certain situations. What's the ideal? What are we striving for? Okay, the bottom left quadrant. is a combination of away from the person I'm trying to be and internal experiences. So these are uncomfortable experiences, uncomfortable thoughts, uncomfortable feelings, the challenges, the things that make croquet hard. What are some of the things that we think sometimes during a game that don't help us? What are some of the things that we think and feel that get us stuck and take us further away from the game? Keeping in mind, these are feelings, they're not behaviors. Everything below the center is what is not seen, right? It's something emotional, something conceptual, or it's a thought. Everything above is what is visible, is a behavior. So now we move to the top left, unhelpful behaviors. So this is when we get stuck in a part of croquet where we're stuck with the uncomfortable thoughts and feelings. What is the impact on our game? What is the impact on me? Do I rush? Do I get careless with my decision making? Does my temper come out with my behavior in some way, shape, or form? Whatever that is, we're now talking about what is external. What are the unhelpful behaviors that happen? And then lastly, we've got the top right quadrant. So that's the combination of behavior and towards the person I want to be. So this is the ideal behaviors, ideal actions. Who is it that I'm really trying to be in these moments? Who is it that I really want to be in these moments? What are the actions that correlate to these values that we've listed in the bottom? If I want to be courageous, if the value is courage, then the action would be, I'm going to be really committed to my shot in this moment when it's hard, when maybe I want to play it safe. No, I'm going to have some courage in this moment and go for it. That would be the behavior. Courage would be the value. Okay, so there's going to be 4 groups, and each group is going to have a quadrant. You're either going to have values, you're going to have uncomfortable experiences, thoughts and emotions, you're going to have unhelpful behaviors, so what is visible when we get stuck with those uncomfortable feelings, and we're going to have committed actions, which is what are these ideal actions? How is it that I want to act in these moments during croquet? So just before I split the groups off, if anyone's unsure about what to do, could they perhaps raise their hand now or ask a question, and we can address that for the group. Beautiful. Not seeing too many hands up here, so that's really, really good. Okay, I'm going to give us 10 minutes because I think that we did that last time. Is really, really good. If you're watching the video, it will maybe sort of skip or black out here. Do this for yourself. If you are watching the recording, maybe just pause and type or write this up for yourself. So I'm going to split the groups up now. Shuffle, here we go. Thanks for rejoining. Let's kind of go through each of the groups here and just sort of discuss what we had. So maybe can I get someone from the values group to start to sort of list out what were some of the things your group came up with?
All right, so that'll be me.
Wasn't it?
So in our group, we talked about the values and the sort of person you want to be and the positive things that we can do on the lawn. And we talked about consistency, which sort of relates to confidence whilst you're out in the lawn. So consistency, not only your game, but I guess your thoughts, your feelings, making sure that, your physical actions are the same each time. You don't sort of veer off down some spiraling little lane that you shouldn't be going down. You just keep everything positive, so you're consistent in your play.
Yeah.
Good sports. Be a good sports person.
Yep.
Which sort of is tied in with your ethics and your morals.
Yep.
We've all been on the raw end of a poor call of a referee, even though you know that maybe they were incorrect. But it's a matter of fact, it's their call. So if they thought that it was a fault, take it on the chin, move on, just accept that call. Trust, having good trust in yourself and your belief, having good trust in your game, we thought was very important. Positive thoughts, and I think that for me, the positive thoughts are portrayed externally. So if you are thinking good thoughts, positive thoughts, that'll come across in your behaviour, in your what you display out in the lawn. If they're negative thoughts, that also will come across quite clearly as well. Not worrying about outcomes, not worrying about things that are not within your control, I think was important as well. We talked about.
Yeah.
And one of our members talked about being in the moment,
Right.
which is what you've talked on Darren, being in the moment. And you know, if things don't go your way, not holding on to that, just letting that go and moving on, accepting the result that's whether it be a shot, whether it be a result from a referee call, or whether it be the game or match, just accepting that and moving on. Yeah, so that's what we've got in terms of values.
Beautiful. Some really, really beautiful values there, right? And the power of values here is that when it's kind of like a guiding point that's out in front of us. When we have clarity of these things, we're aware of them before we even step out there. It gives us something to orient us, to point us at. And values bolster our ability to embrace discomfort. So when discomfort hits, because the game is challenging, we can call on these values and go, okay, well, what does it mean to be consistent and confident and to be a good sport? What does it look like to be present or to be less outcome focused? How can I bring the value to life in this moment for me right now when it is uncomfortable? And it's something that's very accomplishable and something that's very, very rewarding too. So those values act as a very protective feature for us to be able to embrace the discomforts. Thanks for that, Kevin. Really appreciate it. How about the uncomfortable experiences group? Can someone from that group unmute their mic and let me know what their group came up with?
Okay. We had a lot of trouble getting away from all the positive aspects, actually, and trying to avoid going the wrong way. But it was more a case of looking at the things that upset us, either whether it's caused by us or us individually, or whether it's caused by our opponent, or whether it's a lot of external things that we really probably don't have any control over. And we discussed some experiences where we allowed it to affect our game because we got so frustrated with maybe external noises or slow play by our opponent, or the court conditions and things like that. So it was, but we also discussed why we don't want to go down that path, in that accepting what's happened, but then getting back to what we want to include as values type of thing. So, and to give ourselves a better chance at recovering our composure and playing better, or not allowing all those uncomfortable experiences to affect our performance.
Yeah, I love it, Doug. You've gone the extra step there, and you know, you've got a really wonderful, positive problem-solving group there, because you've not only just sort of thought through the uncomfortable things, but then immediately wanted to come up with, okay, well, that's not where we want to leave it. We want, we want to be able to be able to work from it. So it's excellent, and yeah, thank you for sharing it. There are just probably lots of different situations in the game, and some common for most, but maybe some different for others, that could create different uncomfortable experiences. A poor call, a missed shot. I think, was it Anne that I was speaking with? We came up with talking about sometimes it's uncomfortable to sort of be in the spotlight, to be the only person that's sort of standing out there in the middle. Sometimes it's uncomfortable to be watched and to be observed, and sometimes it feels perhaps like there's judgment because you can hear comments of people watching, or you could hear noises of people watching. And, you know, all these little things vary from person to person, but they can be uncomfortable to experience. I guess, I try to think of maybe the tennis in this situation, because it's like someone misses a shot and then the whole crowd kind of like groans in a way. And it's like, imagine being the player that stands out there in the middle on your own just to hear an audience of people groan. It's like, yeah, I didn't want to miss that shot either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Okay. How about someone from the group of unhelpful behaviors? So when we get stuck, what are the types of things that we tend to do? Can someone from that group unmute and share their... Yes, Michael, go for it.
Experiences.
Yeah, we're talking about unhelpful behaviour. Yeah, yeah, Darren. So these are all things that we all can relate to quite well, because we've all done it. Rushing shots, rushing your play.
Yeah.
Not focusing on what you should be doing.
Yeah.
Unable to let go of bad shots, and then that's just playing in your head. Alistair brought up a good one about me. Body language. Like when you do a bad shot and everyone knows that you've done a bad shot, whether you're on the court or off the court. Not feeling confident. And another one would be not trusting oneself, or not trusting your partner.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yep, sorry.
No, that's okay. I wanted to ask about that. So yeah, when someone doesn't trust their playing partner, what does that look like?
Depends on the day.
It's trying to tell that player what to do, how to play.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one that was brought up was sometimes due to playing conditions or weather, or how you're feeling, of not actually just wanting to be there on the court.
Mm.
And the final one we brought up was not actually focusing or carrying out your pre-routine.
Beautiful. I was wondering if we were going to connect some of these things together. It's like, yeah, we skipped the routine, didn't we?
Yeah, we skipped the routine.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Michael. That was, yeah, excellent there. So some of the ones that, are really common actually, and I wonder now, as we all sort of maybe watch live sports, or we're watching croquet games now on the weekend, or in our own games, if we can, we're a little bit more observant of some of these things. What are the things that we tend to do? Do we tend to rush? How does someone lose focus? What does it look like when they lose focus? What does it look like when someone's unable to let go of a bad shot? And if we pick up on those things now and sort of recognize them as, yeah, traps that are sort of taking us a little bit further away from the type of players we're trying to be. Now, this is not to be judgmental, because everyone experiences these things. This is the point, is it's hard. And the idea is that we're not going to be perfect. These behaviors exist for a reason. We'll get to that in just a second. I'd like to just finish with the final group. So with someone from the sort of committed actions, the ideal actions group,
Thank
please,
you.
yeah, please jump in.
Yes,
What did you think?
I drew the short straw there.
Okay.
So I want to say that we want to stay calm and focused in our behaviour all the time, and we want to be target oriented. Our behaviour focuses on that target. We want to take our time, and we certainly want to focus on our pre-shot routines. We're going to do everything that our unhelpful behaviour grid people said. We're going to do the opposite to all of that. We're going to focus on what we know we can do in our shots, do what we know we can do, visualise our shots all the time, see where our shots are going to go, never rush, always watch your mallet, watch your opponent, watch the other balls, paying attention to what's going on to you all the time. That's all part of being committed to what we're going to do in our behaviour, and using that pre-shot routine is really important. We're never going to give up in our behaviour again. We're always going to be trying. We're never going to say it's all over, it's too late, we're lost. We're never going to give up. We're going to stay positive. We're going to be polite. We're going to be polite to the referees when they make the wrong call. We're going to stay out of the way of our opponents. We're not going to try to do anything there. We're going to be honest in our behaviour too. When we hit a ball with our mallet and no one's seen it, we're going to be honest and we're going to admit to it without a doubt. When we're offside and no one's noticed, again, we'll put our hand up and say, yep, we're offside there. We're going to be open in our communication with our doubles partners, for example. We'll talk to them openly, tell them what we think. We'll agree on what we are. And again, always being polite. And I really want to finish up by saying I never realised until we started listening to Kevin how much the values, the emotional values and thoughts that we have affect our behaviour. They really go hand in hand. They work together. One creates the other, and that's really important.
Yeah. Thank you, Denise. That was fantastic. I'm feeling inspired right now.
Thank you. Me too.
You read that wonderfully. Yeah, that connection between the values and the action, I think, is so important. I think it can be very easy to say that we stand for something and very hard to act on what we stand for when it really matters. And that's what this is really calling upon, is like when we're clear about these values, it's like, I do believe in these things. I do trust in these things. These things do matter to me, to us. And now there'll be a moment in which those values are challenged and they can live through the actions that we take. And that is very much the mechanism of how we feel rewarded in life. When we are challenged, we stand for something and we act upon it when it really mattered. So to thank you, everyone, I should just say quickly, you did fantastically in your groups there. And so I want to just, with this slide still on the screen, can everyone still see my slides? Yeah, excellent. So with those slides still up, to kind of just tie this together, unhelpful behaviors exist for a reason, all right? They exist because they give us short-term comfort. It is an easy way for us to avoid something that's uncomfortable. It's easy to rush because, if I just need to quickly get through this because it's uncomfortable to be still. It's uncomfortable to be slow. It's uncomfortable to take my time. I just need to get to the answer or the outcome straight away. So I rush. And in the short term, I go, okay, I didn't have to experience that thing that was uncomfortable. But in the long term, we look back and go, that wasn't really what I meant to do. That's not what I wanted to do. That wasn't the best version of myself right there. So there's a trade-off that happens here. We have short-term comfort for long-term pain. What we're saying here with committed actions instead, with values-based meaningful actions, what we're saying is we're going to invert that trade. We're going to have short-term discomfort for long-term fulfillment. The uncomfortable thing to do in some of these moments is to be open, is to accept, is to acknowledge all of the things that we listed in those uncomfortable experiences. The only way we really work through those uncomfortable experiences is with acceptance. And I think it was Kevin perhaps that sort of mentioned it earlier, and forgive me if I got that wrong, but being able to accept a shot that didn't go according to plan is such an important piece of being able to move on. Acceptance is the really, really key skill here. It is not to avoid, suppress, or remove, or say that uncomfortable experiences shouldn't exist. We are humans. We are playing a complicated sport. We are challenging ourselves as individuals. And so when we go to live a life full of challenge and fulfillment, we inevitably encounter uncomfortable experiences. And so the way through it is with acceptance. We accept short term, okay, maybe this is uncomfortable right now, but in the long term, I'm going to stay committed to what really matters. I'm going to act on it. And in the long term, it's more rewarding. So this is a really wonderful exercise. And again, thank you everyone for participating with it. I think it's something that we can we can all sort of use as a guide and a map at some point to kind of reorient us in a really powerful way. So here we are. Yes, the word acceptance, that is the skill actually that we've been all talking about. A simple way to practice acceptance is just, can I say the word yes to whatever I just experienced? Can I say yes or good? I missed that shot and I'm frustrated. Can I say yes? Right? It's happened. It is the ability to be open and just to acknowledge that this is what I feel and this is what's happening and this is reality and it's okay. I can have these things. It doesn't stop there because there's an opportunity now to act on that next. But that acceptance piece is that key part to go from how do I get unstuck within my own mind to how do I then shift my focus to what matters. Acceptance is that key first step there. So I've got a long quote in here from Novak Djokovic, who I just happened to be listening to a 60-minute interview that he'd done. I think it was in the US. But he sort of seems to have a really honest approach to how he experiences and plays his tennis. And so I'll just quickly read the quote out. And he sort of admits, I have doubts and fears every single match. The difference between the guys who are able to be the biggest champions and the ones that are struggling to get to the highest level is the ability to not stay in those emotions for too long. So for me, it's really relatively short. As soon as I experience it, I acknowledge it. I maybe burst to scream out on the court, but then I'm able to bounce back and reset. And in that same interview, he sort of was complimented on his mental toughness. And he's like, you seem to be really talented at it. He's like, I'm not talented at it. I worked at it. And I think that was a really powerful statement. It sort of calls to all of us like, no, it's something we can all work on. But it's really that acknowledgement and acceptance that he really embraces. I think there's another level of courage to be able to say, I have doubts and I have fears. It's like, well, should someone that's a world champion, that's someone that's almost probably cemented himself in the sport for forever, to be able to say that he has doubts and fears, most people might look at that and go, hey, why is that the case? That shouldn't be the case for someone so good, right? But there's an honesty to it and there's an acceptance to it and he embraces it and it doesn't define him. He's able to still compete with it. So acceptance, a key skill here, very important one. Wanted to quickly talk about this other part of our mind that we can build and use called the observing self. This is just the phrase that's sort of used in the context of acceptance and commitment training. The observing self is the stable, unchanging part of your consciousness that notices and witnesses your thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations. So everyone has this, every human mind has this, the ability to just observe and notice. We can notice what's going on within ourselves. We can identify ourselves. What is a thought? What is our own thought? And what is actually happening in the world around us? And so it's a skill to practice using this. There's a nice analogy done by someone by the name of Dr. Russ Harris, and he's got a lot of wonderful video metaphors on YouTube. If you ever want to look up Dr. Russ Harris, he's fantastic. So in his stage show metaphor of, how we access or use this observing self is if you could imagine this observing self as like a spotlight. And you control this spotlight and it's always accessible and we can point it at things and it can illuminate and be the focus point of the experience. The stage show is just everything that's going on in our mind, all of our experiences, all of our sensations, our thoughts and our feelings. And in this sort of metaphor here, he's gone and said, okay, well, imagine that you're at a dinner party and or you've gone out to dinner with some friends. But then in this restaurant, there's someone in the back that's making a lot of noise and they're being really obnoxious and they're making lots of noise and you're getting really frustrated at it. And you're like, this is spoiling the experience. What's happening in that moment is that spotlight is shone upon what is disliked, what we don't like, this annoying person, this rude person that's making noise in the background. With this observing self skill, we're saying, well, okay, we can notice that that's going on, but we can also notice that there are still people at the table. There are still our friends at the table. There's still a meal at the table. There's still things happening in front of me that are meaningful. What would it be like if I could just swing that spotlight back onto the things that mattered? And what tends to happen then is that it doesn't make this person that's loud go away. They're just there in the background, but it just becomes background noise. And we're able to still fully immerse ourselves in the moment and with the meaningful stuff that's happening around us, without actually having to make the thing that's uncomfortable disappear. So it's a really, really beautiful skill that serves us really well. And the reason I wanted to add in here is because it's a really important part of, I think, croquet decision making is, and I think it's it's a helpful phrase to like ask ourselves to go like, when you're making a decision, what's your spotlight on? Is your spotlight on something that's happened in the past that you can no longer control right now? Is the spotlight on something that you want to have in the future, but we can't do anything about that specifically right now? What's your spotlight on? Because I think that this is the biggest thing that can impact perhaps our decision making. Our decision making gets tainted from a lack of perspective because our mind gets stuck on other things that are uncomfortable. So getting entangled in our own mind, that's what we're kind of talking about here. How do we kind of untangle it? Well, let's engage that observer. Let's engage that spotlight. Let's work out where that spotlight's shining at the moment. Am I focusing on the right things that actually help me? The best players adapt rather than resist reality. So instead of this shouldn't be happening, it's this is happening. What's my next best move? And I was sort of really happy to hear, again, each of you, I think, really understand this quite well because you spoke about it just before in the exercise we completed. What defines you in croquet? This is something that you don't have to answer right now, but I think it would be something interesting to kind of just take away with you today and maybe write it down in your training journal and have a think about it. What we tend to do is define ourselves with results. If I win, I'm good. If I lose, I'm bad. But being defined by results is inherently difficult. Like we've said, results are only partially within our control. And actually, there's a lot of success to be had, even if you don't ultimately win the game. So something interesting to think about is, what do you think defines you in your croquet? And that kind of connects back to our values. The way I like to answer this question is like, how do I want to be known when I play? I want to be known because I'm a good sport. I want to be defined by the ability, like the fact that I never give up, by the fact that I've got solid integrity, that I wouldn't take easy, cheap shots here or there and be dishonest about the way that I play. These are the types of things that I think we can think about in terms of answering this question. What defines you in croquet? We're practicing this ability here of getting some distance from our own thoughts. Again, using that spotlight analogy is when we get entangled in our own thoughts, it's hard to be clear and it's hard to get perspective and it's hard to make decisions. It's hard to think rationally. When we engage that spotlight, we're getting a little bit more distance. We're able to shine out, see where the spotlight is shining. Oh, I see it's shining on my thoughts. Can I shine it on something that's more helpful to me right now? And again, this helps us just be more engaged in the things that matter. I was going to be a group exercise, but I think we leave that be for today because I want to leave time for questions. I wanted to quickly go through confidence. It's something that comes across our work quite a lot, and it's something that I think can be easily misunderstood. So confidence is just the feeling that things will go well. It's a feeling itself. How does it affect behavior? All it really does is increase actions, not necessarily good actions, just increases actions. When we're confident, we're just more likely to go for things. Oh, I'm feeling it today. Oh, the last few shots have been great. Why wouldn't I go for the next one? Right. The reality is that it's normal for it to go up and down. A lot of the times we'll get athletes contact us saying, yeah, just struggling to feel confident each time I go out there. And the reality is that it's actually really hard to just feel like things will always go well. So confidence isn't actually the most sort of accurate gauge for us. we kind of want to see if we can understand the separation between feeling confident and what does it look like when I play with confidence, right? And the ability to play with confidence is always there. The actions, the behaviors, the commitment, the ability to trust yourself, to trust what you've done in your practice, that's always accessible. The ability to feel confident on demand, that's not so accessible. How confident are you to walk across this beam? Right? I'd say I'm pretty confident. Dare say most of you might feel pretty confident to cross a beam at this. Not much risk here. What if I put the beam this high up off the ground? Now what happens to our confidence? Nothing changed about the difficulty of the beam. Our ability to walk didn't change. We're not injured any more than what we were. But just the understanding that there's consequence, the shift in the context, our mind's aware of it, the confidence changes. The confidence drops. Yeah, I don't want to walk across a beam that's suspended this high up in the air. Even though it's simple, even though I feel like I could do it with my eyes closed, if it was off the ground, even if it was 1 meter off the ground, I could do it with my eyes. I'm not going to do it when it's up this high, right? So it's just really natural for our confidence to fluctuate, and it's our mind's always taking into account, risks and things like that. And so confidence is kind of just this gauge to just let us know, like, is it okay to proceed? And so it's actually completely possible to play great with low confidence. We just want to separate the actions of what we do when we play confidently from the feeling of being confident. It's not something that we have to have necessarily. And so many times you'll have noticed for yourselves, when confidence is low, you're still able to make a shot. And when you make a shot, then the confidence comes back again. So confidence will come from a combination of things. It'll come from our experience, and it definitely very much come from our training. And it'll come from being really committed to what we've practiced. And as we play with that commitment, then we can build more confidence too. This is actually a really fun picture. This is Alex Honnold. So for those of you who don't know, Alex Honnold is a free solo climber. Free solo is climbing without assistance. This is a world record. He said he climbed a mountain called El Capitan in, I think it's Yellowstone, America. So he climbed this unassisted from bottom to top. An incredible human being, a record that they say will never be surpassed ever again, is what they speculate. And he's a very interesting person to listen to. But when you understand the level of detail, because people go, well, how can you have the confidence to do that? Aren't you scared? And he's like, yeah, I'm scared, but I have trained my ability to do this so well. And I've climbed this cliff face, and he climbed it assisted, by the way, before he did the unassisted climb. This man has an extensive amount of competence in climbing, and he doesn't take risks that he knows he can't manage through his own competence. So a really, really interesting case study. We won't dive any deeper into that today, but if you're interested, Alex Honnold, very interesting climber. So yeah, just to summarize, confidence is just a bit of a gauge to help us on whether it's safe to act. Moments of low confidence are very normal. Doesn't mean that you're not capable of performing. So, the sort of last kind of question and joke here is, and it's, again, not something you have to answer, but confidence doesn't really help us if we don't have the competence, right? So if you don't have the skill anyway and you feel confident, it doesn't help us. I haven't played croquet. I could feel like I'm the most confident croquet player, even though I've never played. If I play against someone that's very competent at croquet, they still win. So feeling good about things doesn't just mean it's going to go better. We got to, I think, develop the competence and trust the competence. So what is competence? Having the necessary ability, knowledge or skill to do something successfully. And that's why we put such a focus on preparation, on training, on challenging ourselves, on being able to develop that skill set so we can rely on it under any circumstances. And how does it impact our confidence? Well, if you're better at something, you're more likely to feel confident about it. So that's the way that we tackle confidence. Again, just sort of quickly here, I think this is the last couple of slides. How do we improve dealing with discomfort? Well, I think Anne mentioned this before in our conversation. It's something that we each have to experience. You have to teach yourselves. You have to be in it. You have to experience it. You have to acknowledge it. You have to be willing to want to be in it. and then teach ourselves to adjust our focus in those moments. So how can we practice this? Something we call mentally how to practice. And basically, it's just your ability to create challenges or to embrace discomfort in some practice. Ideally, if you can do it within Croquet, that's great. So what that might look like would be create challenging situations in your practice, create pressure simulations, score things, put yourselves in uncomfortable situations and test yourself. Test everything that we're talking about. Slow yourself down, take a moment, go through your routine, be really committed. Create some pressure for yourself, put yourself in it, and teach yourself how to understand what it looks like and what it feels like when it shows up for you. Teach yourself as well how to be composed in those moments. Stay committed to your process. So the task I was going to leave you with as sort of the final task here is to kind of take that piece away and think about it. Like, how can you expose yourself to do something that's a little bit uncomfortable in your practice? Maybe it's doing a drill that you don't like doing. Maybe it's practicing a shot in front of people that feels embarrassing to practice in. Whatever you're willing to do, and the willingness is the really important part here. This isn't about forcing each other to do it. This is about us making the choice to willingly step in that, because we genuinely believe that there's value in it. There's something to grow from it. We're not waiting. The other complication here is games and matches tend to create these challenges, but we can't just wait for game day to practice them. I understand that we're never going to fully replicate game day. That's okay. That's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to fully replicate it. We're trying to take elements that we experience in those games and then use them as forms of practice. But simply waiting for practice, for game day alone to practice, isn't helpful. So that was it for today. I hope we've left a little bit of time here for some questions. So that's it.
Beautiful, Darren.
Certainly was.
Before we get into questions, guys, I just want to, in fact, let's get straight into the questions, and I'll wrap it up at the end, Darren. I think that's a great idea. So again, you know where those hand buttons are. If you got some questions, please fire away.
Yeah, I hope we've addressed quite a bit of stuff, but I obviously understand there's unique context. Maybe we missed something. Maybe we can connect something that we did back to something you've experienced. But yeah, please feel free to jump in, bring up a topic even. It might not even be a question. Maybe it's just a topic that you feel would be good to talk about.
Yeah. Djokovic's quote, he basically said, I was just wondering if you're really frustrated with what's, you're better off to keep it to yourself, or like some sports, let it out. Then refocus. You're better to let it out and then come back if you can, assume you can, or keep it inside and just move on. Because a lot of sportsmen, they really carry on a bit, good or bad, but then they can focus back. So
yeah, it's a great question. Thanks, Ray. And it varies from person to person, because what really matters is the only person that knows whether they've accepted the frustration is yourself, right? So for Djokovic, for him to be able to be like, well, I can just quickly let out a burst, and I know within myself I've accepted it and I'm ready to move on. I know I've let go and I'm focused on the next point, right? So that's the challenge here, is like, within yourself, do you really know whether you've accepted it? Because the complicated part of expressing frustration or aggression is it feels good to let it out. And so when it feels good to let it out, what we do is we just teach ourselves to be more frustrated by letting it out, right? So that is the trap that you need to look out for. It's not just as simple as, if I'm angry, can I just shout and will it work? No, it will not work. You're just going to teach yourself to enjoy shouting when you're angry. So that's not what we want, right? We do need to do the work to understand within us, like, whatever I choose to do, if it is going to be that behavior of a little burst of a shout or whatnot, we need to do the work ourselves to understand that we've accepted that anger in that moment and we're ready to refocus.
thanks. Thank you.
anything else, I might just remind us that if you are speaking, maybe your microphone's muted, make sure to unmute. There is the raise your hand button at the bottom. Oh, yeah, there we go. Doug, go for it. Unmute and jump in.
You spoke about acceptance, and I'm not sure whether I've read it correctly, but I've looked at other things that part of our personality is that we're reluctant to accept or take responsibility for our actions. And especially when people are watching, they're going to blame us for doing something wrong. And then it comes back to the other aspect of it, that we're not perfect, and each game of croquet is not going to be a perfect game. But we've got to accept that we need to understand that we've done the best we can, but we didn't get the desired result. So we've also got to accept and not be embarrassed by the fact that, and I know you've already mentioned this, but how observers will look at us and say, "Oh, did you see that crazy shot he just did? It didn't work. What, you should have done something else." And I think it's it's important that we realise that we've made that choice. We've done the best we can, and we don't worry so much about the result. It's about whether we implemented it to the best of our ability.
Yeah, spot on. I think you've understood that well. And maybe there's some subtle differences, perhaps between acceptance and maybe accountability. I'm just going to flick back to the acceptance slide here. So it's really just when we're talking about acceptance in psychological flexibility, we're talking about your own ability to just accept that situation or that emotion or that feeling within yourself. And so if your shot didn't work out, I guess the difference between acceptance and accountability is to probably just be like, okay, yeah, like can I put my hand up that didn't work? It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take the blame for everything all of the time. I guess that there's a discussion to be had about, it's probably a decision-making discussion at that point about, like, well, what type of risk are we looking to do? What are we looking to both share, or what type of game are we trying to play here? Are we playing a game where we want to really kind of go for it and take chances? And then therefore you can kind of work out like a shared accountability. Like when something doesn't go to plan, we agreed already that this was how we were going to approach it. So let's accept that, move on, and we can talk about it at the end of the game. But everything else that you said, yeah, spot on in terms of acceptance.
And we did discuss that in our breakout, that one of the things is if you play a shot, but it doesn't go to plan or the way you meant, it's good to think about, okay, I accept that, and it just makes my next shot just that little bit harder because it's not where I wanted it to be in the first place. So we're accepting the challenge.
That's it. Spot on. Marty, I think I saw your hand go up first there. Go for it.
Yeah, sure. One of the things about the game of croquet is we have some interesting dynamics in that we're playing timed games and then sometimes untimed games. But the majority of the games that we play are timed games. And a different dynamic comes in when you're getting close to the end of time. You know you're getting close to the end. And you might be a couple of shots down. And you do know that you've got the ability and the strategies that will allow you to overcome that and get ahead, but you're conscious of the clock. And so for every shot, there's not just one or two options. There are sometimes as many as a dozen different options of the shot you can take. And the one that might be an angled shot from a long way out from a hoop might be the actual shot that you have to take because you're running out of time. And so time is quite an enemy to us at certain points of the game, unless of course we're ahead and we can waste time. One of the problems you have is you could be getting close to the end of a timed game.
Yep.
and you know that you must at least tie the game up.
Yeah.
So those 10 options that you might have for every shot, you don't have time for them.
Yep.
And also your setup, where everyone here, we know that the three most important things of a setup are stance, stalk, stance, and swing. And then there are other steps in between those. But if you're racing against the clock at the end, you need to know that you can still go through your routine, but speed it up to half the time you'd normally take. And I think that's an important thing from mental toughness that comes into it, your ability to set up ready to hit your shot as quickly as possible towards the end of the game.
I appreciate that, Marty. Thank you for sharing that dynamic. So yeah, there's definitely like an extra layer of challenge, I guess, that comes into things. And I think what time really is doing there is we're just having to accept risk, essentially. It's like we're not afforded the time to go through all the decisions and make a great decision. We actually just have to embrace the fact that that's the reality. Time is short. We're going to have to make a quick decision, and a quick decision that with commitment is still going to be better than umming and ahhing over a decision and then like half doing it. And so we've both not used time wisely, and we're now not committed to the shot. So I fully appreciate the challenge there. I think as well, adding in that pre-shot routine comment that you made, that I think layers in the importance of we should absolutely be very well practiced at our pre-shot routine so that we can speed it up and slow it down given the circumstances as we need it. And maybe actually that kind of feeds into the last slide that I said, where I go, well, what's uncomfortable practice look like? Maybe it's speeding up your routine under a short period of time. Maybe it's abbreviating something under a short period of time. So that's a really good one. Thank you. Bob, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, hi, Darren. And I'm just interested in the balance between long-term goals, which give you the motivation to practice and do better and all those sort of things, compared with staying in the moment and playing each game and each shot without having those longer-term goals in the back of your mind.
Okay. Let me see if I understood the question. So the contrast here is between sort of being present and sort of this idea that maybe presence feels kind of slow versus like a mind that's like aware of the goals that you're trying to accomplish and maybe like that want to just accelerate yourself towards the goal. Is that what you're talking about?
Probably a good explanation of it, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Not necessarily even accelerate it, but just to sometimes to focus on it. And
Yeah.
so the goal that motivates you to go and practice can sometimes get in the way of staying focused on the moment.
You're right. Yeah, it can. And I think it's not that any one approach is like categorically right. It's more like right time and right place. There is a time and a place to think about the bigger picture and the long term. We don't want to be permanently present. If we're permanently present, that means that we're neither learning from something that's happened in the past, nor are we planning for a future that could be more beneficial for us. So it's time and place. So, the time to be present is when you're playing. You don't need to think about your long-term goal when you're in the middle of your game. So that's the time to be present. When you've got a day off or when you've got the spare time and you're neither practicing nor have the pressures of anything going on, hey, that's a pretty good time to start to sit down and plan and process and think about what the long term is. So I hear what you're saying. Like there is definitely a balance between them. They all serve us in a unique way. I think it's really just about time and place. So check with yourselves, like, is this the right time? Is this the right place to prioritize this particular one?
Thank you.
Cool. I think I saw Denise's hand up somewhere.
Yes, I just wanted to say a little bit more onto what Marty said there, which was interesting about time, because I'm sure we've all experienced the other side of the fence, whereas your opponent is watching the clock just as much as you are. And it is amazing how much longer they take to finish that last shot, and they stall and they walk slow and then they reset their stance.
Yeah.
And it costs the game, and that can be really, really frustrating and disappointment. And that's what brings out your behaviour in being polite.
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Denise. Yeah, there's definitely different
It's sportsmanship, doesn't it?
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, right there. There's going to be values challenges. I think I can't remember the person's name. It was a podcast I was listening to. It was I think a US maybe Green Beret or someone that was in the army, but they were in a really sticky situation in a combat spot, and sort of the lesson that they were trying to highlight was like values don't really mean anything unless they're tested under duress. And that sort of really hit me. And I think that that's really the point here, is just like, what's the value of being a good sport worth when you're never tested about being a good sport to begin with? So, you know, I appreciate where you're coming from. That, you know, that other players can kind of do these things to sort of shatter the experience a little bit. I think one approach I like to play with too is to just say, you know, their tactic, this is a game, and they've come up with a tactic to try to get under our skin. And so let's kind of break the immersion here. Let's not give them what they want. All right, you want me to get upset at you taking time. Okay, that's the game then. I won't get upset. I'm not going to give in. I turn it into a little bit of a game with myself, and I feel like that can sometimes help just sort of shatter the, I guess, frustration of it.
It's usually a bit late because you're always the last hoop, and it means the game's over.
Of course, of course.
All right, Darren, noting the time, we might look at wrapping it up there.
Yeah.
So listen, from me, I'd just like to really thank Darren for spending the last 3 sessions with us and ultimately helping us as an individual improve our game. And listen, folks, that's what it's about. Those of you that are coaches, whether you are legitimately a coach or whether you just do some coaching on the side without having the ticket, that's fine. Pass this on to the people you know. Okay, share what you've learned over the last 3 sessions with the people in your clubs. And I'd like to add as well, I do a lot of coaching, and I might do a 3-hour session and spend a lot of time with people getting them to change things. And then I'll watch them a week later, and what's changed? Nothing. They play the same old game. So what I'm saying there is all these little things that Darren's touched on over the last 3 sessions, implement them. Don't expect your game to all of a sudden skyrocket, because chances are it won't. Chances are it'll probably plateau or maybe even have some negative impacts on your game. But when you change something, that's what's going to happen, okay? It takes time. But yeah, so change something in your game. So Darren, from me, on behalf of Kate that's not here, thank you so much for spending the time with us. And I'm sure everyone agrees it's been so beneficial, and I've had a huge impact on my game.
Thank you, Darren.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I really, really appreciate that. And also thank you to Kate. I know she might not be here at this moment. I think she said she might be able to catch the end, but thank you to both. And thank you to everyone. You've been such an awesome group. I wish all the groups that I interact with to be like this. You guys are really, really wonderful. So I wish you all of the best with your croquet. And thank you so much once again.